Good afternoon, everybody, and nice Monday to everyone. Hope you had a good weekend. And to my partner in crime, Matthew, remember, it seems like only 48 hours ago, LSU had a football coach.
Yeah, yeah, they did. But I what I will say is the way that Brian Kelly walked out of that stadium on Saturday night,
Mm-hmm.
you got the feeling that it probably was the last time he was going to be walking out of the stadium as the head coach of LSU.
Mm-hmm.
It just that scene that they have, and I mean, it's not like they got like fully taken over. It's
Right.
it's the scene that you get every time a program goes on the road and gets a big win. It's the players celebrating with however many fans that traveled. When
Mm-hmm.
they're the only ones in the stadium, they're a lot louder and they're a lot more prevalent than
Sure.
before. But it's an image that the LSU brass did not appreciate, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the tipping point in what had been a relatively, I think, tumultuous time in Baton Rouge that started off well. He made the SEC title. He followed it up. Jaden Daniels won the Heisman the year after.
Mm-hmm.
But they seemingly have gotten worse year by year. They started in the title, and then the next year, Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. They didn't make the SEC title. Year after that, they didn't have a defense that could stop anything. And this year, they have no O line. Like their offense is stagnant, and a big reason for that is their offensive line. So when you pair all those things together, and then you get some of the stories that came out about him, not being really fully bought in necessarily the way their type of requirement buy-in that LSU believes they deserve, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
say rightfully so, given the amount of money they poured into him.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're gonna wind up where he was, which was, I mean, the people down there in LSU, the beat writers and stuff like that, man, they covered last night like a freaking reality show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's videos of assistants walking in. You can probably piece together across Twitter a full 4-minute video of Brian Kelly showing up, walking in, checking into the facility,
Mm-hmm.
getting back in his car, leaving, heading out and stuff. So it felt like it was coming to this point throughout this season. And for as much as I talked about the aspect of time when it came to James Franklin and Penn State and how I
Mm-hmm.
didn't agree with it, they ran on a similar timeline here with Brian Kelly. You could argue they fired him for less than they fired James Franklin for. And I feel better about LSU doing that than I do Penn State letting James Franklin go still.
Yeah. I, you know, Brian Kelly to me, and I've made this open many times, and this is not a personal attack on Brian Kelly at all. Um, it's simply he didn't fit LSU. I mean, there are fits and there are not fits, and he didn't fit at LSU.
Mhm.
He didn't have any Southern real roots. Um, he had that bizarre press conference when he was hired, which he came up with some crazy almost war chant type things that he did. It was just bizarre.
Mhm.
It was not a good fit. But let me ask you this question: Scott Woodward, who is the AD there, was involved in two things. One, the firing of Jimbo Fisher, and two, the firing of Brian Kelly. How much of this is on the athletic department?
I think there is a certain amount on the athletic department because when you're hiring for a job like LSU, because LSU is one of the best jobs in the country, I don't think it's particularly close. Um, there needs to be like, and I mean, this isn't LSU exclusive or like top end job exclusive.
Sure.
These athletic departments have to do a better job at understanding what they're looking for and vetting their candidates properly, understanding fit really, because it never was a fit. Like people threw on the rose colored glasses because I mean this isn't exclusive to athletic directors or fans or anything like
Sure.
that, but this can be in everyone's, like they call it the honeymoon phase of a relationship for a reason. Like you don't
Right.
you don't notice the flaws of the person you're with. Same thing here with LSU. LSU had a nice honeymoon phase. They had an SEC title appearance. They beat Alabama.
Hmm.
They got a Heisman, another one in Baton Rouge. Like it was a nice honeymoon period. Last year the honeymoon period started to wear off, And this year they got down to realizing that they were just two different people that did not fit at all, ever. And, they threw on the rose-colored glasses, thought it was going to work because all of the things like I think things can be true and not necessarily work out. Like I do think that Brian Kelly was a little bit limited at Notre Dame, but you look at that stuff and say, well, that should translate to winning.
Mhm.
It's a tough look when LSU starts getting worse year by year, and Notre Dame got significantly better after Brian
Mhm.
Kelly left.
Yeah. There's also for the past 2 years, at the end of the season, when the season was over for LSU, Brian Kelly would take a 2-week vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, back at Baton Rouge, his assistant coaches were working the portal. They were working the recruits. They were doing every possible thing that they could to land the kind of classes it took.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where's the buy-in from Brian? I mean, it goes from the top down.
Yep.
And if your head coach is out taking a 2-week vacation at a time when everybody else in the building is, got the phones humming and, jumping on planes or cars to go and see kids, what kind of situations does that prove to your coaches, your assistants? It proves that I'm the boss and I really don't care what you do. If you have to work, you have to work.
Yeah. That's what when I prefaced it, I said it requires a certain kind of buy-in. And that's what I was referencing. He was not there during some crucial roster building points of the season throughout the years. This wasn't like a 1-year thing. That's not a fit at LSU. That never will be a fit at LSU. You can't just show up there and expect to win. I think a lot has to do with maybe Brian Kelly looked at what Ed Orgeron had done at LSU and said, and he kind of thought to himself, man, like I'm 5 times the head coach this guy is. If he can win here, then I really don't have to do all that much, and I'll probably win here too. So, I think he kind of just slapped his name on the brand and kind of expected it to work out based on the stories that you've heard of just how bought in he was. But he turned and he pointed blame at everybody that he possibly could. At a certain point, you can't just keep turning and pointing the finger saying, hey, it's somebody else. Like it's the same problem that a lot of these different universities have as they bounce around from head coach to head coach. They're like, hey, like it's not my fault. If your head coach keeps having to fire coordinators because it's not working, eventually it's not the coordinator's fault, guys. They've walked into a toxic environment where they don't have full buy-in from top to bottom, from your head man down. And it becomes toxic. Like it becomes you watch that LSU sideline on Saturday night, and the amount of outbursts that Brian Kelly did have on the sideline, because it felt like every time they panned the camera to him, man, he was losing it on somebody. Whether he's losing it on, just like a random quality control assistant, or he's yelling, what the F are we doing, to his offensive coordinator, Joe Sloan, who as of this morning is also out of a job. So it felt like he was looking for somebody to blame. Like he was looking for somebody to blame. Man, it's you. Like you are where it starts. And people have they've ragged on his coaching, they've ragged on his character. Some of it I feel like maybe a bit overkill. But when it comes down to the coaching of it and all the optics of it, it's not a good look for Brian Kelly.
No, it's not. And at the same time, I remember that right after Nick Saban left Alabama, I forget what show he was on. It was one of the national shows. And they asked him, what was the toughest job, you ever had as a coach? And he said the toughest job he ever had was at LSU. He goes, the line of winning and producing is not enough. You have got to, year in, year out, basically challenge for a title. If you're not challenging for a title, then you have failed. He goes, you can have 9-win seasons or 10-win seasons at LSU, and still, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
So if Saban said it, and he left that job to go to Miami,
Mhm.
I think that I'm going to side with Nick on this one.
Yeah, Kirby Smart was asked about it this morning in his Monday press conference,
Mm-hmm.
and he said that because he coached there under Saban as well, and he said during his time there, he had his office or whatever, and somebody came up to him and essentially told him, "Hey, this is rented, not owned. Like you don't own this, and you pay rent with wins. Like that's how
Right.
you pay rent in Baton Rouge. You win football games, and when you don't win football games, you're not going to last long there. Like it's as simple as that. There is no excuse for losing there in Baton Rouge. They had
Mm-hmm.
3 head coaches in a row come in there and win a national title, and now for Brian Kelly to be the one that's leaving Baton Rouge without one, I'd say it's a stain on everything that Brian Kelly thought he was.
Yeah, and the other part of this now is we have 4 high-level programs, all of whom are looking for coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And the name, we know what the name at Florida and LSU is. It keeps coming up. And
Mm-hmm.
somebody's going to make Lane Kiffin a lot of money. And it's
Yeah.
either going to be at LSU, Florida, or staying at Oxford and basically, becoming the de facto governor of the state of Mississippi. Because suddenly the LSU job and the Florida job, if they're in competition for Lane and Lane wants to stay where he is, he's going to get a boost, beyond belief.
Yeah.
So one way or the other, Lane Kiffin's going to get paid.
I still think is the most likely scenario, by the way. I still think he's staying at Ole Miss. That is what I keep coming away. And I mean, I have no information inside or anything like that. It's just kind of a general feel that I get that he's not going. LSU is going to take some big swings, though, when it comes to this job. Like, they're going to make some big phone calls. I would expect Dan Lanning to get a phone call. I would expect Marcus Freeman to get a phone call. I would expect Nick Saban to get a phone call. Because I like these are LSU is that level of job. It has that kind of draw to where you can make those kind of phone calls and at least expect an answer.
One of the phone calls that might be made, and I can say this because I know the agent has been involved, is John Gruden.
With LSU,
Yeah.
I find that one interesting mainly because of the time factor. Like,
Mm-hmm.
John Gruden's not going to be there for a very long time if he were to take that job. Like, it doesn't feel like John Gruden's a guy that's going to get a college job and be in it for the long haul by any means. Which I will say, I think may not be the worst thing in the world because, right now everybody's handing out these mega deals and they're firing coaches 3-4 years in. Because when you're a big school and you hand out a deal like that, you expect winning. And if you mess up in your coaching process and your coaching hire, then they expect, the expectation's still winning. So now you got to spend the money to go try again. And, I think there's going to come a time. I don't know what contract, what firing, what buyout is going to like kind of trigger a switch.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like a shift is coming in the way that coaches' contracts are structured. And I'm not saying it's going to be this year, but at some point people are going to look and be like, why are we giving these guys like 12-year deals? Like, I know we want them here. Why? There's a 90% chance this guy's not going to be here longer than 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we giving him a 10-year deal when we could have given him a 4 or 5 year deal? And yeah, we'll probably still have to pay some money, but at least we won't be, torching our budget for the next 5 years.
Yep.
Having to reallocate stuff. So that may be a solid fit.
I think that, one of the things that was asked of John the other, it's been about 3 or 4 weeks ago, when he openly said he would not mind taking a college coaching job, was do you really want to go back to the NFL? In other words, basically, to your point, are you going to stay? You're going to use that as a stepping stone. He goes, look, at my age, there's no reason for me to do anything but get my final job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we are to believe him, then maybe it's not a bad idea. But John's
Yeah.
got baggage, and that baggage comes with him. And you know, I like John. He's a good guy, but you know, he was fired, and you know, I think if John was the hire at LSU, and I'm not saying he is or isn't, I have no idea. If they hire him, I think that there is a very good chance that he would stay, and a very good chance that of all the places he could go, the LSU people would bury that other part without a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, they absolutely would. Like like they talked about it. It was talked about when Brian Kelly got the job, and he had the fake accent, and everybody's like,
Mhm.
I don't know. He just doesn't seem like a fit. Winning cures all. Like
Sure.
for as bad as a fit may be, on paper or whatever, if Brian Kelly had gone out there and he had won the SEC a couple of times, made it to the playoff, or at least, perennially in contention, which
Mhm.
they were to an extent, but they didn't actually make it. Like they weren't one of the 12 best teams for each of the last 2 years, and before that, they weren't one of the 4 best teams. So I think that the expansion of the playoff and not being in that playoff
Mhm.
twice was really probably what set it over the edge. But winning would cure all for John Gruden. And what I will say about John Gruden that would fit in Baton Rouge is just how much he loves football.
Mhm.
Like the level of care he has. They talk about things that fit in Louisiana and fit at
Mhm.
LSU. How much he loves football fits at LSU. There's no doubt about that. He's not going to be on a beach somewhere, after the season ends when it's recruiting time. He's going to be working the phone. It's going to be recruiting time for John Gruden.
And the thing with John is that you know he doesn't. He's the kind of guy that if it doesn't matter what conference you're at, right? I mean, he is he's likable, and he's not gonna John Gruden's not gonna change if he's coaching at Florida or if he's coaching the San Francisco 49ers. It's the same John Gruden, the
Mm-hmm.
same personality, which is I think what really made him popular on ESPN when he was on the ESPN show. It was like
Yeah.
he's a good dude. He's fun to watch. And he as you say, he definitely was the guy from a standpoint of they didn't have any problem with him. So yeah, I mean, I think that if they but I mean that's taking a chance. But if you're going to swing for the fences and take a chance, that's not such a bad thought.
Yeah. I still, which, you said they've been, I still think he would not be at the top of my list if I'm
Oh
LSU.
no no
I,
no no no!
I
I don't mean that. I'm just simply saying
yeah,
he is there.
yeah, yeah. As a fallback option, I would say he's solid, but I don't think LSU's in a spot where they're taking any fallback options necessarily.
Right.
Like I think the way the jobs stand is it's LSU, and then you go a little bit down and you got Florida and Penn State then kind of
Mhm.
sharing more of a common ground when it comes to coaching searches.
Mhm.
But I am curious about this job in particular because this job is big enough that it can kind of send a ripple throughout the way things are or were going to go this offseason.
Mhm.
Like I think there are probably going to be some schools now that were considering firing their head coach that may just kind of sit pat for a year because they know they have to compete with LSU. Like they know that job's open. I mean, it's not even November yet, and
Right.
we have these kind of jobs open. Like there's more to come, and so there's jobs like a Florida State. If Florida State really was just considering on waiting until the end of the
Mhm.
year and firing Mike Norvell, I'm not sure that's a move they make anymore. Um, and I think the same is said for Auburn, probably.
Right.
They might reconsider, especially considering how Hugh Freeze closed the season, because he could close the season well. Um, but these schools that were going to be in the coaching pool and were going to be in the coaching search market this offseason, they may hold off and say, well, do we think we can survive another year? Like is it worth, because what's another year if the next 10 will be better because you waited? Is is something that these schools will definitely think about, because when you look at the names that are tossed around for these head coaching searches, and like I don't mean this necessarily disparaging towards any of the names that are being thrown out now or anything like that, but the list isn't exactly like miles deep with guys that you would just really love to have take over a big program. The list has started with Lane Kiffin for every job so far. So, I think the overall quality of the pool this year, or the way people view the pool this year, will probably impact that as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way it can. It's gotta.
Yeah.
There's just no way that you can get away with it not. And I think that's something that we'll definitely see. And like you said, I mean, look, we're not even midway. We're at the midway point of the season. There's going to be, there will be some coaches that are gone, but I think you're onto something with regard to the possibility that there'll be less, because they're like, God, who do we have to compete against?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and how can we? We can't.
Yeah, it's an understand, because those the two schools that I mentioned by name, and like, I get it. If you're a fan of those schools, you think it's the best opening in the world, who wouldn't want to take this? But in terms of, I'm 98% sure when I say this, in terms of the way coaches and athletic directors and really everybody around the country kind of views these programs, Florida State and Auburn aren't on the same level that LSU is.
No.
Like, there's only a handful of jobs that could come open, and you'd say, okay, it's on the same level as LSU. And when I say handful, like, I mean, it's a very select handful. Think of, possibly a Georgia. Alabama would probably be in that same tier. I think Ohio State and Texas would also probably fit in those openings as well, as ones that can compete with LSU. It provides the ability to win a national championship that a lot of other programs just can't provide.
Well, right now, of the 4 jobs that are on the block, LSU is far and away the most enticing. And I think, I did a research piece, and it's going to be tomorrow. You'll be able to read it, and it compares all of the jobs that are up at this point in time. Hang on one second, gang. Alarms are wonderful unless they're sitting right next to you. There we go. I did a piece on comparing the 4, and LSU edges out Florida and Penn State, not by a lot, but by enough that they definitely warrant consideration.
Yeah. And I mean, like, with all due respect to Penn State and Florida, that LSU brand carries a lot more. Like, it carries. Florida and Penn State are both very good brands as well. That's not what I'm talking about. But when you just look at the past 20 years of those two programs, there's been, if you're Florida, there's been one guy that's won it, and that was Urban Meyer. And since Urban Meyer, no one else has been able to do it. Like, no one else has really even remotely came that close. Save Dan Mullen in 2020, I guess.
Right.
Was probably the closest that a coach has gotten at Florida. And the same could be said for Penn State. Yeah, Penn State has been a really good brand, but they haven't really done their winning since the 90s. James Franklin did a really good job there, but he didn't get where they wanted, where they believed that he could go. And what if people believe that James Franklin really kind of capped out? What if that's a thought process that goes on in people's heads? So they're both still really good jobs, but when you look at the winning pedigree across different head coaches, which I think is really more indicative of the brand's power than it is the people that have necessarily been there all the time. LSU is far and away better. 3 different guys have done it there. And so if 3 different guys can do it there, then you can too, is pretty much the way that a lot of these top-end guys look at it.
One thing I will say, and this has kind of been the mantra for years, is Louisiana kids like to stay in Louisiana if they can.
Yes.
And there's something about Baton Rouge that, there be kids that will leave that area, leave Louisiana, and tell you that, if they had a chance, doesn't matter where they land, if they had a chance, they'd stay they'd stay home if they could play for LSU.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying that you can recruit that the logo itself does a hell of a lot of recruiting, but it sure as hell doesn't hurt you either. Um,
Yeah.
and there's something about, and I've been on probably, I don't know, good God, I can't even count how many college campuses I've been on for football and basketball. There's something about walking, into Death Valley, and and Clemson, don't even talk to me about that. Death Valley is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It is not in, it's not in Clemson, South Carolina.
Yeah. Never has
There's
been. Will be.
never has been, never will be. There's something about that day, that event. I mean, it is the singular event there, and it is intimidating as hell. And I wasn't playing football. Okay, uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's just an incredible place to be. It's also a fun place to be if you're a coach and students, players and such. If and I'm not just talking about football now. I'm talking about everything down the line. Basketball. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal loved it. I mean, he still does.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about LSU that connects with people. And I'm
Yep.
not saying other schools don't have it. Certainly Ohio State, Michigan, okay, fine, Florida, they all have it. But there's something about it being in that area, in that whole, Cajun type situation that just, you know, is is something like no other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you can see that throughout the sports too. Like people think this is just like necessarily a football standard. It's not necessarily a
No.
football standard. Like I want you to think about their other sports. Gymnastics has won a
Mhm.
title within the past 5 years. Women's basketball has won a title within the past 5 years. Men's
Mhm.
baseball has won a title within the past 5 years.
Mhm.
Their basketball team was better when Will Wade was the head coach, and kind
Right.
of went back down. But I think they're back on the upturn. Still not probably top half of the SEC if I were to guess, but they were better there. Like there's an expectation of winning, not only at football but at LSU in general.
Yeah, but there's
It's not.
also. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's I was about to say it's not an exclusivity thing to football. That's the expectation at LSU in general.
Right. And the other thing that goes to it is fan support. I've done baseball games there, football games, basketball games. The fans show up, and it really does. Okay, they can have a down year, okay, but they're still showing up,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that says a ton about the university that regardless of whether you have a good team or a bad team, they're still there.
Yeah, and I think when this decision was made, that was probably one of the images that was residing in the decision makers' heads is that image of Saturday night and watching those
Mhm.
fans leave in the middle of the third quarter when you had a game that was you were up by 4 coming out of half.
Mhm.
You weren't down in that game at halftime. You were up 4 points, and yet you still had people leaving towards the end of the third quarter. Like they had given up. They had long since given up on Brian Kelly, and that this weekend was just the tipping point. And you talked about the fans, and that's kind of what makes LSU special as well. It, but when they're out, then you're pretty much dead in the water.
You don't. I'll put it this way: I've probably done 20 football games and maybe as many basketball games at LSU. I can't remember a time where you saw people leaving the building unless LSU was up like 30, 35 points.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they stay usually to the end, and it's a celebration. And it's literally in those night games. It's 11:30 going on midnight,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
they're still there. And so when you see people leaving the building, It's not just a telltale sign. That's something saying, okay, we got a problem, Houston. We got to get this thing fixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think over his 4 years there, Brian Kelly lost twice at night. Like
Mm-hmm.
that, it was something. He was like 20-1 entering Saturday night.
Right.
While he was there, obviously left 20-2. And you go, well, like that's a really good record. What's wrong with 20-2? It's the way the two happened. I think people would have been okay with 4 losses at night at LSU if they'd looked a little better. But the 2
Mm-hmm.
losses came over the last 2 years. They got embarrassed. I mean, they got flat out embarrassed at home last year against Alabama. It was 42-13. I
Mm-hmm.
think Jalen Milroe pretty much just got out the hurdles and saw how fast he could run up and down the football field. Like he was doing a track event there last year, and then the way you get embarrassed again this past Saturday. LSU, I think, would have been okay with losses. Losses are one thing. Losses
Sure.
happen, especially at home at night. You play a lot of games. You're eventually going to lose them, right? I think it's the fashion in which Brian Kelly lost both of those games.
Yeah.
It's the embarrassing way that it happened.
Yep. I mean, it's an accountability factor. So,
Yep.
So there. Okay. So we go from there, and it was a wild and woolly weekend with regard to college football.
Mm-hmm.
You reside in a state where you got 2 top 25 schools there, my friend. You got Tech and you got the Dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, good year for football in the state of Georgia if you like college.
I
Don't
was
get
going
me
to say,
started.
don't. We will. We're not going to subject you to the pros.
Yeah, the pros in Atlanta. That's very much a situation where you're starting to look and view it as an organizational failure. But I'll
Another
leave that.
day for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave that one for another day. No, but two really good programs. They're trading off weeks. So this past week was Georgia's bye week.
Mm-hmm.
This upcoming week, I believe, is Georgia Tech's bye week. And there's a very, very realistic chance that we get to the Saturday after Thanksgiving, or not the
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, the Friday after Thanksgiving, so the next
Mm-hmm.
day. And when I'm taking the trip down to Atlanta, I'm going to watch a top 10 matchup.
Right.
So
and both of them could win win their conferences.
they could. I did see there were some Tech fans that were upset. They said they were upset because when the AP poll came out yesterday, that Ole Miss had jumped them and they moved back to 8. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, and there's a lot of people, and this goes back to the conference, all these conference
Sure.
clashes that fans have back and forth. They said, well, we just don't, a 25-point home win just wasn't enough to top a team with a quality loss, which, they have a case that they are 8-0. Ole Miss is 7-1, and their schedule has been worlds more difficult because while you may not have a quality loss, Georgia Tech, you do not have a quality win.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. Your quality win is scraping one out against a really bad Clemson team at home right now. That's your quality win. So there is that aspect. You haven't been world beaters in the ACC. I'm not saying that humility's coming, but I can tell you it's a week away. So for all the feel good around Georgia Tech, I think fans need to. They've done really well.
Temper the expectations.
Yeah, you haven't been blowing teams out. And it's not like your team is just up and down that much more talented than everybody else in the ACC. But you've built a winning culture. Brent Key's built a winning culture, and you've won thus far. So all I'm saying is, calm it down. It's the AP poll. If you win your games and you deserve to be there, then you'll be there at the end of the season. Stop worrying about what things are like on October 27th.
This weekend, of course, big match up in the G5 situation with USF and Memphis. Memphis wins it 34-31. USF misses the field goal at the end. It would have perhaps sent it in overtime. The storyline, there's still a lot of football to be played, but the storyline that came out this weekend a little bit, which I've got a story coming out in the morning. Alex Golesh suddenly, if he wants it, the UCLA job's his job. It's his, and I don't think he wants it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I can't say I exactly blame him for not wanting it. It seems like he's got a pretty good thing going at USF. He's built a pretty good program there in his time. I feel like he's got understanding and buy-in from his bosses, from the athletic department and the AD. I think the boosters are on board with him. And I think you go to UCLA, and while you may upgrade in name, I don't think you're going to upgrade in success from where he is now.
I think the problem there is, as I rated the 4 jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, UCLA was at the bottom of that list, and it wasn't even close. I mean, they have an NIL problem. They have an inter-athletic director problem because that just doesn't seem to work. They've had 3 coaches in 5 years. They literally called, Arizona State and tried to get in touch with Kenny Dillingham and his people, and his people politely said, please lose our phone number. So I mean, right now, this is I can't even believe I'm saying it, but their leading candidate for that job, and I'm going to leave, we both said we'd love to see them stay with, what they got right now, Skipper in that group, right? But their leading candidate at this point is the coach at Texas Southern.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of who you'd expect, right? Like there's going to be
that almost, as someone who loves college football and loves tradition, the idea that the UCLA football job right now, you can't find someone who even wants it.
Yeah, I mean, who would want it? Why would you want that? It feels like if you're in any kind of a relatively comfortable or good position, you're giving up a place of comfort for probably not that big a pay raise, and a place that is just it's in shambles right now. There's no continuity throughout that. Not only the football program, if we're being honest, but just kind of the university as a whole when it comes to athletics right now. There's just nothing good or consistent that you can point to at UCLA that's worth leaving, unless you're a guy at a school like Texas Southern who thinks that you can go. Because what I will say is, while he may be their leading candidate, he has done a very good job at Texas Southern. He's won at Texas Southern, and that's hard to do. He's done a really good job, but still, that being your leading candidate for a brand, or a brand that is supposed to be as strong as it was in UCLA, it says a lot. Because there's jobs that are going to come open this year. I can, just thinking off the top of my head, Stanford will be open this fall because Frank Reich's on a 1-year deal. Stanford's a better job than UCLA is right now. Virginia Tech's already open right now. Virginia Tech is a better job than UCLA. And there's going to be a bunch more that come open, maybe ones that come open and, you aren't expecting them to come open, that will be better jobs than UCLA. UCLA is one of the worst P4 jobs in the country. Not only is it one of the worst P4 jobs, I think there is a good handful of G5 jobs that are significantly better than UCLA is right now. USF being one of them.
Yeah, Tulane. So, I mean, there's some.
Tulane. Yeah. I think Memphis is probably
even
better.
San Diego State.
Yeah, there's so many programs that should not be better than UCLA, but are right now.
Well, look at what Dan Mullen's got at UNLV.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who they're going to get to coach that football team. Maybe it is the guy from Texas. I really don't know, because
if they're smart, they'll just leave it with Tim Skipper and Neuheisel and let them work it out.
I'm honestly shocked they had the cojones to call Arizona State in general. If I was Kenny Dillingham, I would have called them back personally and just kind of asked them what they were thinking, just to see why I would even remotely consider the job.
Right. He's already recruiting the players that the Southern California players better than the two schools in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
He doesn't need them.
Like just in terms of Kenny Dillingham himself, there's not a lot of jobs in the country that could get him to leave. Get him to leave
UCLA
Arizona.
is not one of them.
And UCLA, not only is it not one of them, I don't even think it's in the realm of one. I think, like I said, I think if he gets a call from Tulane, he's going to consider Tulane more than he considers UCLA.
Yeah.
Tulane, a job that will probably also come open this offseason.
Yeah, probably. And so it's just been, upside down wacky here in the past few hours of what's going to happen. And it's just, I agree with you. I mean, in some regards, stability at this point in time, I'll take stability. It's maybe I'm not getting as much money as the other guy, but you know what? I'm also not under the incredible pressure that guy's under.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And you're not under pressure at UCLA. You're just under disaster.
Yeah.
You can't outrun a poorly run athletic department.
No, you can't.
And if I'm UCLA, I'm blowing that thing totally up.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing somebody in, and I'm going to say, here it is, fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it takes you 3 years to fix it or 4 years to fix it, take the time to fix it. But you're killing us.
But the problem is that with UCLA is there's like you listen to or you hear some of the discussions in the backlogs of like what coaches ask for at some of these programs when they come in. Like they're not going to be willing to give a coach what is necessary for them to win. I don't think.
That's why Chip Kelly left.
Yeah, they're not going to answer those. Like you go back and you listen, you hear some of the conversations, one that have gone on between Florida and Lane Kiffin, and the autonomy that Lane Kiffin has asked for in terms of like over the Florida program and Florida football. He wants full autonomy. You go back and like I point to this as really one of the main reasons that Georgia football is successful today. You go back and listen to some of the requests that Kirby Smart had. And the way that Georgia is right now is because this is the way that Kirby Smart said it had to be in order for him to be able to win here. And they did it. The same thing goes for Penn State and James Franklin. Like James Franklin came back a couple of years ago when he was getting a lot of interest and said, listen, I want to stay here, but this is the contract it's going to take. And outside of the contract, I need some more buy-in from you guys in terms of the football, like overall football stuff. Like I need a new facility. Like facilities have got to be upgraded. And there's a bunch of stuff that is outside of just the on-field head coaching stuff that these coaches, any legitimate head coaching candidate is going to ask for, and UCLA is probably not going to give it to them.
Well, they can't.
No.
I'll bet you if you go down to Snapdragon Stadium, which is a smaller stadium, much smaller than the Rose Bowl, down the 90 miles down the I-5 to San Diego, and you look at that setup they have over there, that's a sweet little on-campus setup they got. They don't have an on-campus stadium at UCLA.
Yep.
You got to travel, if you're lucky, 30 to 45 minutes to get to the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
So, why am I going if we're not winning?
Yeah, no, it's I have a hard time like seeing the path forward for UCLA. I don't know where they're going to go and get a better result right now, because I like you're not in an era that they throw this term around so much. You aren't just one coach away. Like there's not one hire for UCLA that's going to fix all of these problems and just make them winners again. It's just not that simple for them.
No, you can't. No, it's and the reason I'm sad about the situation UCLA is I've had a lot of friends who were out there. Guy I went to high school with in Florida was the was the head of the music department, dean of the music department out there for a number of years. Westwood is a beautiful campus. the university is a really cool place, and you just and I again, being a sucker for tradition, there's something about going into Pauley Pavilion. It's like you're entering a church,
Yeah.
and because who it's just, to me, it's just a really it's a sad situation that UCLA can't field competitive sports teams. Other than they do have some good Olympic sports that they still have, but
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, it's not enough.
No, it's not. And I like I said, there's no like one solution that'll just be the be all end all
Mhm.
and fix everything for them. They're so far away from being able to have any sort of a scenario like that.
And it's it's not getting any better either, and
No.
that's why you see the the situation with regard to the situation with regard to what's going on with the um, athletic director, and they've had they just keep going through everybody, athletic directors and all kinds of people. So I don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy, but it is what it is. So we just got to do what we got to do in that regard. Tonight, World Series game 1 in Los Angeles, game 3 of all. I'm a little torn here. I'm Max is my man, and I hope he does really well. And the Dodgers have, of course, on their docket Tyler Glasnow. So you got some multi Cy Young Award winners on tonight's game, and it should be very entertaining.
Yeah, Glass now is a guy that the only question I have about him really going into tonight is how long is he going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Talked about it every time we've talked about the Blue Jays and just how good that lineup is and how they pretty much hit they hit Blake Snell. Hit Blake Snell pretty well. So they can hit anybody, but then Yamamoto came out after that and shut them down. So they can hit against anybody. Are the bats going in Chavez Ravine tonight? I don't know. But you look at the matchup, and Mad Max gave you one. He gave you one in the ALCS. Is that all he had in the tank? I don't know. The stage is bigger. The lights are a little bit brighter than they were last time, and that seems to be when he's best. But is his best now good enough for the Blue Jays?
Well, I think they want to get, if they can get 5 innings out of him, then I think that he will have served his purpose.
Yeah. I think John Schneider would probably be jumping up and down for joy if he got 5 good ones out of Max.
Yeah. It's it's kind of a nuts situation, but it is one of those deals where you hope, right, that if you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan, you're not looking for a whole bunch. You're just looking for, get me through this, get me to the inning 5, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
And Max is such a competitor that I don't think that's going to be a problem.
No, I don't think it is. I do think it is just like, now granted, I said it the entire Seattle series, but you're looking up and down, and you're probably not going to be favored again in a lot of these pitching matchups from here on out. This is another one of them that I would not favor the Blue Jays in. So you have to out-hit the Dodgers. Are they going to be able to out-hit the Dodgers 3 more times is really the question when you look at this series. Like for as complex as you can make arguments and all this other stuff, the odds that you're going to outpitch them 3 more times are slim to none. But you can't out-hit them. So it comes down to the bats. It's always going to come down to the bats. I don't think anything's going to. There's not going to be something that happens in this series that makes me go, oh well, that changes the script and the way that the Blue Jays can win. I just don't think it's going to happen.
No, I think you're right. I don't foresee that being a deal at all. I mean,
And
it is
also,
what it is.
I I was gonna back it up because like when I was watching some of the game too, it was like I was sitting there thinking like this is why pitching matters. This is why the 1-2 matters because yep, Blake Snell went out there and he had a real clunker, and that stinks, and it is what it is. But guess what? Yamamoto goes game 2, and he went out
Mhm.
there and he gave you everything you could ask for out of him. That's why you invest in the pitching, and that's why you have deep pitching staffs like this, especially when it comes to top end starters, and why you need them to win, because you need a guy to be able to go out there and pick up the other guy that maybe didn't have his best day. And the
Right.
Dodgers have that. Not only do they have that in the 1-2, they've got that in probably the 3-4 as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. You know, um, it's definitely a wonderful luxury to have if everybody's hitting on the right buttons, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, like the dynamic that I just described between Yamamoto and Snell, I think Glass now and Otani, same thing. Like
Mhm.
neither one of these guys are scrubs by any measure. They're really good. They just happen to not be as good lengthwise as the other two.
Yeah. Um, the the thing that I was probably most impressed with um, is the fact that we saw something we haven't seen since Kurt Schilling, and that's Yamamoto pitching 2 complete games.
hmm Yeah. What was it? Was it the complete game in the World Series? That was the one that made history. It's the first complete game in the World Series since it's been forever.
You mean you're
That's
talking about now going back to Kurt Schilling's?
I like just the I thought the stat that I read was just in terms of like a complete game in the World Series in general. It's been a while since that's happened.
Yeah, that's what I said. You have to go all the way
Yeah.
back to Kurt Schilling when Kurt was pitching for the Diamondbacks.
Yeah. So you know, when you have history just kind of sitting up and down your lineup like the
Hmm.
Dodgers do, you know, things are probably going to work out.
You think? Eh, um, it definitely is. Is it makes life a lot easier. That's for damn sure. It definitely does makes life easier.
hmm
Um, but yeah, any other thoughts that you have about what's going on out in the world here, in the sports world, before we get out of
Yeah,
town? And as I
I
said, I'm
do.
not going to make you comment on yesterday's game. That would be incredibly rude on my part, and I'm not going to do it.
Well, I'll just say this: the Falcons have a problem organizationally. Like in terms of this, just really quick, the Falcons do have a problem. I don't know where the problem stems from because they have the talent on the team. Like in all fairness, I think they had some of the talent on the team when Arthur Smith was the head coach. I'm not sure if this is necessarily like just a head coaching problem. That's what I'll say about that. The one thing that I really wanted to discuss because it's been driving me up a wall since Saturday
Hmm.
is Vanderbilt got a really good win against Missouri. They
Yes,
they
they did.
won another ranked game, really good win. Why is Diego Pavia going up to the podium afterwards and talking about the Heisman? Why is anybody talking about Diego Pavia's name and the Heisman? The only reason Diego Pavia's name is associated with the Heisman, actually, there's two reasons. One, Vanderbilt's winning football games, something that apparently no one thought possible at Vanderbilt. And number two is the media. People talked about it last year. They said Travis Hunter was like the media's Heisman or whatever,
Hmm.
right? You want to see an actual media Heisman? Let Diego Pavia just get to New York. Go look at his stats.
Hmm.
He's god awful statistically. Like he's a really good quarterback. They
Hmm.
win. That's not what I'm not making a discussion about Diego Pavia, the winner. Diego Pavia is a winner. They win football games, but he doesn't fill the stat sheet up when they do it. He hasn't thrown for 200 yards against an SEC opponent yet. It hasn't
Hmm.
happened. So his touchdown numbers aren't good. It's not like he's running for 100 yards a game either, and he's not passing for a whole lot of yards either. Vanderbilt's good. They are right in the thick of the SEC championship race. They are right in the thick of the playoff race. They are a really good football team. Vanderbilt fans should relish in what they're experiencing right now. I don't want to hear another word about Diego Pavia and the Heisman, though. They don't need to be in the same conversation. In terms of a Venn diagram, they're not in the middle section that intercrosses. They're on either side. They should not be linked together. They don't go hand in hand. Great story, great personality, good player, not a Heisman.
No. There's right now there's a bunch of people out there. I honestly I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna see if I can get him to pop on. David Smoke, a good friend of mine down in Dallas, is a Heisman voter. Now he's not going to tell me who he's going to vote for, but he can give us an idea who's on his list.
Yeah, that because I don't know if I think if you have Diego Pavia number 1 on your Heisman ballot, then you should have your vote revoked. Just take it away in general. It's just it's one that just wouldn't make sense. I happen to be looking at the passing yard leaders in the SEC right now. Diego Pavia ranks 10th in terms of just passing yardage, pure passing yardage. He has not even eclipsed 1,700 yards this year. It's not. Can't stress that enough.
It's there. We talked about players and coaches and that are game managers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what Pavia is at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And I'm not, again, we stress that Tom Brady and they're a good game manager.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's the kind of guy who gets you to a win.
Mm-hmm.
And then away you go, Miami had a number of those quarterbacks back in the post Jimmy Johnson, post, Steve Walsh was one of them. At Miami at that time. They had guys who were, really good college quarterbacks who could get you to a championship, but there was no way they're going to win a Heisman, and B, play in the pros. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, like Alabama's football teams when they had Heisman winners, really, really back in the earlier years of the Saban dynasty, they were running backs that won the Heisman.
Right.
Like they understood where the value came from. The value was in the running backs on those teams. So it's not that he's a bad quarterback. And I will also add this. He can make some very special plays with his legs. The one that didn't count this past weekend, he can make some incredible plays with his legs. But he just doesn't have the numbers. He's winning at a place that people don't believe you should be winning at, which is really good. But in the same way, oh God, why did I just blank? I fully blanked on who Indiana's quarterback was last year.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, but now I can't remember who it is.
Well, regardless, like Indiana's quarterback, they went 11-1 last year. Mm-hmm. He was not in New York.
Nope.
They wanted a place that you don't win at, and he was not in New York. The same needs to be true here. If I remember correctly, I think Indiana's quarterback last year had better statistics than Diego Pavia did so far this year. So it's if you want to point somewhere where you've got like media bias, or you can point to maybe the ESPN propping up the SEC a little more than maybe they should, go there. That's where you need to take your quarrels up.
And I will close with this one, but the guy who drives me the most nuts on this particular issue is Paul Feinbaum.
Yes.
Paul is so quick to deem anybody, a Heisman winner, when in all fairness, they are not worthy of it.
Yeah,
So, it does get, there's media hype. I get it. But there's also the eye test.
Mm-hmm.
Does that
Yeah.
guy, is that guy a winner? Absolutely. Is he a Heisman Trophy? No. Winner? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, according to the media, we have probably 12 Heismans every year. Everybody wins it week in and week out. Like they anoint a new leader. It feels like dang near every week here recently, especially last year. Obviously, as you get later in the year, things dwindle down. You get a better understanding, a
Mhm.
smaller list. But man, the media is ready to claim like if a guy has a good week, they're fully in the Heisman race. So, which just isn't the case. Like it's one good week does not represent an entire body of work over
Mhm.
12 games. It's so different. And so when people do it preseason and people do it 3 games into the season, when people do it 6 games into the season, like these benchmarks where people are like this is who the Heisman is. If it were to end today, great. It doesn't end today. They got to go play 6 more games. Like they still have to go play 4 more games. It's far from over. You're gonna get a better idea. Just give it 2 weeks.
Yeah. And not to rain on the parade, but at the end of the day, boys and girls, my to me, the Maxwell Awards are far more important than the Heisman,
Really.
because they go out and they have, each week they will go out, and when I say they have a group that
Mm-hmm.
travels to football games all around the country and watches these kids.
Yeah.
And then they come back and they talk about it. There's no media involved in the Maxwell Awards.
As it should be. Like if correct, I'm pretty sure the Joe Moore Award does like they do film study before they hand out their award.
Mm-hmm.
Like
The John Unitas Award, they do.
Yes. These are the kind of things that are good for the awards that are being handed out. They're done for. It's something that should 1,000,000,000% be done for the award that's essentially the MVP of college football.
Mm-hmm.
It is the biggest award in college football, and it's handled like it's a freaking participation trophy sometimes.
Right.
Everybody gets a say. You get a say. You get a say. Like what are we doing? Not everybody necessarily deserves a say because, I'll say this too. Just because you won the Heisman doesn't mean you're like a great football mind. Johnny Football won the Heisman. I think his iPad hours of film watched when he was in Cleveland were 0.
Mm-hmm.
So like it doesn't just because he was really good at football doesn't mean he's some football savant and expert.
Gino Toretto won the Heisman.
Huh?
Gino Toretto won a Heisman.
Yeah. So it's not just some, well, you won the Heisman, so you obviously know exactly what you're talking about on this matter.
No.
Not necessarily true.
No, like I said, the Maxwell Awards, the Unitas Awards, these are the kind of awards that they take it serious. And I'm not saying the Heisman people don't. I'm just saying the Heisman people basically, for whatever reason, one way or the other, are people who just are they like to get together at the athletic club in New York and give a trophy away.
Yep, they do.
So, good, bad, or otherwise, that's what it is.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'll tell you what, we got stuff to do here, and we're going to get going. Tomorrow, we'll have a World Series to talk about, and we'll probably have another coach fired. They're right there going now. So we'll see what other job Lane Kiffin's going to be asked for. So I wouldn't mind being Lane's agent at this point. Anyway,
No.
All right, man. You have a great day. Everybody,
All right.
It's been fun, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.